It looks really not great, like as a full picture right now, but the bones are good and she'll come right.
We're Jess and Dan, and together we've bought a semi-falling down farm in Scotland, and we're documenting the whole process of putting it all back together again into a family home with you guys. So if you never want to miss an update, hit the subscribe button and the bell icon. But for now, let's see what we got up to this time. It turns out that I've now got the flu, so forgive my voice in this video. When we last talked about the grounds and the gardens, this hedge was pretty much all we'd done. When I left to head over to go work in Australia and leave Dan completely solo, I knew that certain things were going to happen on the external parts of the properties. How much of that was yet to be seen. However, two things happened, and let's go through them one by one.
So the first thing that's going to happen when I'm gone is behind me.
The tree?
I'm going to be in the air for this, and honestly, I haven't quite come to terms with it yet, so I'm glad I'm not here, because I would stop it. I would be like one of those people that tie themselves to a tree. I find this situation just completely heartbreaking. I'm very emotionally attached to the trees. I feel like they're so important, but I understand also that some of them have to go because they're even now you can see they're causing damage.
Well, that one be dead as a dodo.
It's not dead. That one
is dead.
It's not. It'll come back.
That is as dead as a dodo.
It's not. Look, it's got shoots on it. It's not. You can't say it's dead.
On like 1% of the tree.
This is the one tree that I am. I just feel is so integral to the feeling of the whole place, and the thought of it not being there is just depressing.
It wasn't just that tree though. We had this mammoth beast over there, followed by the two that are next to it, which are impinging and creating a little bit of a dangerous situation on top of the arches, but also providing a little bit of a concern for insurers on the main farmhouse. To summarise, we've got those 4 trees that need to be addressed. We also have one that's completely drowning in ivy and isn't in a good state, along with the 3 towards the end of the driveway closest to the farmhouse, which are too tall to be considered safe for insurers and also for some mortgage home reports. Given our financial obligations over the next couple of years, these were vital. And so the tree surgeons came in, and that's part 1 of this video. So starting with the ivy drowning tree, a lot of the ivy was already stripped off, but we wanted to show you a little bit about the process. So this is what happens when tree people, who are far safer and more expertly than we are, tackle projects like this. And this is the reason, one of the reasons why we were not going to do this ourselves. Partly because we didn't have all the equipment for it, partly because it just would not be safe, and also partly because there are some power lines, electricity lines and telephone lines that actually run through a lot of these trees. So leaving it to the professionals, they head up there. Honestly, I don't know how everybody is so brave to do things like this, but we just watch in awe at the experts doing their thing. Clambering up there and then taking off the limbs that are sort of on the outer edges. Those limbs get taken down and get put into a, I don't know the technical term for it, wood chipper machine to create wood chippings that pop out the other end. So going up and down these trees consistently with ropes to tie back certain elements, to put tension on other elements, to secure themselves. These guys worked like absolute pros over a few different days to tackle all of our tree situations. To help to put the height into perspective here, they're not even right at the tippy top of that tree, but they're already well above the top of the chimney pots on the main farmhouse. So I mean, crazy heights happening here. With all of those different limbs dropping and different levels of leafiness happening, every single one was put through the chipper machine. I'm going to call it that. I don't know what it's actually called. Everything gets slid into one side, and then sticking out the other end is all of the bark and bits and pieces and wood chip that comes off the other side. It's suitable for things like laying pathways and things, but you have to remember that wood chippings like this will rot, and they'll turn out to be, especially with a lot of water, mud in fairly short amounts of time. So with all of those going down and all of those going through in the wood chipper, you end up with a tree that's fairly naked, and then when it's given a little bit of its last help, it will come down. So that was the first casualty of the trees, and after that point all of those trees are chopped up into very small sections, and those small sections will then get further chopped up to make some logs or whatever else is required. Some sharpening was also needed. Each one of those slabs is fairly huge. We will have so much in the way of timber off the back of this little tree surgery project. We should be sorted for a couple of, well, probably multiple winters in a row. So moving over to the side of the arches, that is the first tree that dropped, followed by the second tree going down there, and each of these trees follows the exact same process. So every single one of those went through the wood chipper machine, throwing out chippings at the other side, and then also went through the chopping process to get made into smaller little segments so that we can store and use them for firewood. Nothing from this process will be wasted, absolutely nothing. And for every tree that drops, we will replant other ones. The sad tree, this one actually came down in two sections. So first the limbs were taken back, and then there was a little bit of a conversation with me over in Australia about what to do next, and we agreed that the whole thing needed to come down. It turns out that actually the tree wasn't healthy at all and was very hollow in the centre. It was weak and it was causing damage. So after taking it down in different sections and making sure those power and telephone lines were safe, unfortunately for me and for the tree, it was no more. Again, don't worry, we will replant. So on the driveway, we can't show you the ends of this just because nobody was on site to film it at that time, but we will show you the aftermath of it. These trees dropped to about 20 feet in height. So that's what was left of them when those were finished. And that is part one, because part two happened over in the cottage garden. So I don't know how to explain this in a way that's going to make sense, but you can sort of see Dan going around and clearing stuff. Makes sense, right? You arrive at a property, none of your stuff's there, some of the other people's stuff's there. You want to make sure that everything's cleared out, taken care of and stuff, but you're also finding things as you go. The sad part is that what we've found across every single part of grass on the site is what we'd call rubbish here, trash, litter. So small items, crisp packets, chocolate wrappers, contact lens packets, just really random small pieces, mainly of plastic, but also of metal, sharps, so sharp objects. We think that all of this is just blown from fire pits over the years that the properties were vacant, and that's why it's all sort of just everywhere. But it did take a lot to clean up, and then Dan did the first trim of the garden area here, and then did a first cut on a really high deck setting for the lawnmower. We're just waiting for the ride-on lawnmower to be delivered because there's been some delays on that front, and just sort of started to do that. We didn't put a collect on it, it was already blocking, grass was still a little bit wet, those bits and pieces. So it's just a case of just seeing if we could take the worst of it off, but not completely decimate the grass. And so with those bits and pieces done, Dan worked in sections. So instead of tackling everything all at once in terms of like all in one go, doing all of the trimming, he opted to protect his back and instead just do them in sections. So he'd trim one section, then he would rake one section, then mow one section, then rake that section, and then trim the next section, going over and over and over again. And in between all of that, Puppy still needed to go and do fun stuff. We are keeping Ren on a line sometimes outside. It really depends. If I'm with her, then usually not. If Dan's with her, then usually she's on a line. Just because honestly, this site is just full of dog death traps right now, and our priority is not on fencing those dog death traps. It's on actually making progress. And so we'll just put a line on her. The others are all safe. Dan carried on finishing out the back part of that cottage garden. So you should have a good idea about the size of this cottage garden now. It's a good space, really good space, and a big garden by UK standards, realistically speaking. It's the second largest single piece of grass, would say, on the site that's in the gardens and the grounds rather than in the main field. So we're looking forward to getting that lawnmower to be able to tackle some bits and pieces. With those bits covered, it's time to regroup with us all because
I'm back. I can see the house. It's all very odd. There's no trees. We just feel so naked. Feel so naked. God. Oh, I've just remembered my wellies have got holes. Oh no! It's just those little micro ones.
She's on a mission.
Oh,
R.I.P. to the tree you used to be.
I'm feeling really sad about this one. Still. So they said it was bad.
Yeah, if you go to the stack, right hand side, just have a look in there. What's in it?
Nothing, it's a pee-pee hole. So the whole thing was actually goner anyway, basically is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Look, there's just nothing there, and I'm just not. There used to be a giant tree, like a freaking giant tree that leant all the way over and nearly touched the house, like huge. And then there was two more, one there and one there.
Yeah.
And this one went over the top of here, and also was like 2 meters away. I just feel like we've lost so much of the character with that going, so I'm going to plant another tree, but one that won't get to that extent, because it feels like it's lost its soul. Oh God. They've lost their heads.
Been beheaded?
Yeah. They're going to come back with green bits.
Yeah, they'll come back with green bits. So the lime trees, so on the right hand side where it looks like it's just a huge nest in the top of the tree, that is natural that lime trees do that.
Look at the flowers.
Oh God. Being distracted.
They're really tall.
They are quite tall, yeah.
Super tall. Did some
But
growing.
Seeing as though the trees have come into leaf, you'll notice they hang really low. Like probably above the gate where you're probably going to be brushing your head on the leaves.
Why does this one feel like autumn?
I don't know, I like this one. I think it adds a bit of colour rather than it just be green.
It's been eaten.
Well, yeah, but the leaves will naturally be eaten.
Could somebody who's a plant person tell us why this is red, and if it's supposed to be red, and also what's going on? There's a big gap there as well.
Yeah, because there's another big tree that's come down from there, the one that was covered in ivy that looked ugly.
How do we get to that tree?
So go back to the house, turn right past the oil tank, straight up in front, you'll see where it was fell in a line.
Oh, this would make such a good coffee table. Can we make that slab into a coffee table?
No.
Why?
I've already asked, it'll deteriorate, like, it'll work, but for like a year or two.
So sad without that tree, Dan. Well, progress is progress, I'll take it. Right, we need to talk about this field because we've got a problem brewing.
You're the problem and you brewed a while ago.
Thanks, Dan. Cheers, mate. Nugget, I'm so jet lagged. Like, I literally got in last night. How many hours was I in transit for? Like a parcel?
36.
36 hours. Can you imagine travelling 36 hours? I mean, what day is it? I don't even know.
I didn't know what day it was.
At what point do you eat food? I went with all the time. Right, so we've got a bit of a conundrum that we just need to like cross this bridge at ASAP. We've got some good grass coming through. This is actually quite nice, not super high sugar grass, but up at the top of the hill. There is about half a kilometre of this field. To put that into perspective, half a kilometre. It's about 19 acres of grazing land. It's too rough to pull a hay crop from, so by default also too rough for haylage and silage, and that means it needs grazing. I can't bring a grazing animal on it right now. I can't move her yet, she's not ready. And also this is far too much food for one. So we either need to, this is my logic, get a herd of alpacas because they'd be fun. Get some sheep, as in we become sheep farmers and we get sheep. Get some cows.
Ooh.
My logic for long-term cow life is I don't mind cows. I'd be happy to have a cow. Everyone's gonna be like, get a Highland cow. I don't want horns around horses.
You're
so
not a photographer till you photographed a Highland cow. You
So-
could finally make it.
I know. Finally be a good photographer for one time. I need to probably look at adding some horses to our herd so Tuni's not by herself. Or we get sheepsies and run sheepsies in. We're going to need quite a lot of sheep to eat it down first, otherwise they're all going to get fat and fall over. Can't have ponies, even though they'd be easy peasy, because we'd just get laminitis left, right and centre. Unless we strip it all out and strip graze the whole thing. It's hard because we're stood in the bottom. Do you want to go up on the ridge so that people can see what we're working with?
You a race.
It's a big hill, Dan. All the way up to that little tree. That's the field. We maybe speak to our farmer friends
I think that's probably a good idea.
up here and see if they've got anything they can pop on. Oh my God, I'm dying. I think what we'll look at doing is seeing if we can introduce some horses down the line within the next 12 months or so. Get some horses in here, eating the grass. I know horses, so that's not an issue for me. I don't know sheep, but we'll consider the sheep situation as well, I think. Cows, I think I'm hesitant to bring cows in. We'd get them through one of the local farmers if we were doing cattle, just because Scotland's currently a TB-free zone, like it's TB-free. And if you were that one person who bought a cow to be a pet, and the pet cow brought in TB, and decimated everybody's herds in the entirety of southwest Scotland, I think we might be shot. So that is the situation with here. So I think after seeing your videos down of you out with the dogs and seeing how long all of this grass
Poor
was.
Beanie can only just see over
Yeah, little
it.
Beanie, she needs to like part the sea of greenness. Looks naked.
It does, but I like it.
Thing is though, it's sort of like an ugly duckling stage. It's like a yearling. It looks really not great, like as a full picture right now, but the bones are good and she'll come right. I just wanted to say, Dan, I think you've done a really good job on cutting the grass.
Yeah?
Yeah, you prioritise the most important bits and it looks really good now that it's got all of the room for all of the activities. Can't we do one of those like soap slides?
I'm down. What, and end up in the septic
Yeah,
tank?
the septic tank. Maybe not, maybe not. Look how good it looks with the cut grass.
Yeah.
And the little flowers. I think it looks really good. I think you did really well.
Thank you.
Arr, 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 arr.